This is the awesome weapon slide out.
Yeah. Hey everybody, so we are out here in Mule Deer Camp, and it's actually the first time all season that Josh and I have been both in camp together and actually set up the van and the tent the way we want it. I'm gonna bring us inside and kind of show off the tent and explain kind of how that works for both the bus now and the van. So come on inside, we'll talk about the tent first. With the van being obviously a large vehicle, but not as big as the bus, we knew we wanted some form of exterior living space, and we already had the tent for the bus, and so it was actually Josh's idea to retrofit the current tent to have the basically zippers put in so we can roll up a hole flap in the very middle of the tent, or we can open the van doors directly into this 200 square feet of living. So it's the same frame as we use on the bus. I actually just cut a little bit of a few inches off of all the poles to drop it down to match the height of the van. And but yeah, same frame, same tent, and Montana Canvas hooked us up and sewed the zippers in so we can use the doors there. They also sewed zippers into the flap where the bus door goes, and so we can close that down. Adding this much living space, and it's a freestanding wall tent. It does not actually connect to the van. I have guy lines that go over the top, and so we can connect those to the back of the roof rack to help keep it steady. But we can actually drive the van away from the tent and go hunt using the van as more of like an attack vehicle rather than the bus, which is simply a base camp. We can cook in here. We've got a cot out here for Shawn, who's behind the camera, and we added another stove jack, and so we can have the stove in the corner rather than over in the middle of the tent like I do, or like we do when we have the bus set up. So yeah,
this can run 2 stoves.
Yeah, or we can run 2 stoves if we want it real hot. But really, it's just a good hangout spot rather than sitting in the van, which we've built for the hunting purpose. So I'll turn it over to Josh, and he's going to talk about the interior of the van and all of the stuff that he did on the build and what we did on the interior, and kind of show the updated van tour.
We were sort of, just trying to figure out what to do with that door space, because there is a lot of it, and to not utilize it for some aspect of the van would have been seemingly silly and a waste of space. So we debated about different things, putting a kitchen attached to the door or having more of a hard-faced containers or more strapping, but we kind of finally landed on doing this little more versatile molly webbing panels that we just tech screwed straight to the door, sheet metal, and are able to kind of hang whatever pockets and gadgets and different stuff that we need. First aid kits, axes, seasonings, all kinds of supplies for being out and doing what we're doing can just be attached to the doors. And then moving into the interior, we did need sort of a little bit of a base space just for transporting all this stuff, and then also just kind of a gear dump during the day when we were hunting. And so put in this little open space here, built a cabinet for the back here, and the cabinet houses the battery system and the controller for the solar panels. Sam had this Dometic fridge freezer combo.
Just real quick tangent. So we've had a lot of questions about how we haul game after we shoot something. So shot a deer a couple days ago, and we actually ice it down in a Yeti, but now this is a Dometic fridge freezer. And so right now I actually have a front quarter and all of the spare meat in there, and that will freeze down over the course of the day running off the solar panels. And then I can transfer that back to the cooler if I want, or just transfer other stuff out and more meat in. So we can actually use this to cool the meat down rapidly and freeze it down if we want while we're in camp, and then it'll stay there until we get back to wherever Josh is doing all the processing for Public Land Meat Co. So that's a little tangent. I'll let him continue talking about that.
That's it. So after Sam dumps all his meat on me to handle and goes and hunts somewhere else, inside we have 2 beds, and these 2 beds are separated by this wall that came to me in a dream. No, not really. I just didn't want to have to spoon my brother. Built this wall, and this wall can actually slide in and out of here. And so if we are using it with our wives or alone, you just simply pull this board out through this slide hole and then remove it completely from the van, throw in a queen mattress, or just combine the 2 foam pads that we have and lay something over the top. But adds a little aspect of versatility for either using it for 2 or using it for 1, which is pretty good. First I did sound dampening that I put on all the exposed metal to quiet the whole thing down for both driving down the road and sleeping at night. And then put in Havelock wool everywhere, which is a straight wool insulation, and just a good product to use in any RV or van. that you need insulated because it doesn't itch, doesn't throw any fumes into the air. It actually extracts scent from the inside of the van that could be here potentially, and sort of filters it out, freshens it up, which is a nice byproduct of wool. And then we covered that all in 1/4 inch tongue and groove pine, and Sam installed the lights, but we have constantly ran into not enough lighting in all of our various whatever, whether it be the bus or the back of a pickup or a camper or whatever. Never seems to be enough light. So we went big with the lights and are happy about that. Put a little bow holder on the back of the chair here to hold one of the bows. This just, whoever's kind of up the bat or whatever has quick access to their bow and can leave the vehicle quickly, just at least conveniently. So we put in this fantastic fan from Dometic into the ceiling, and I was super skeptical about it not having an actual air conditioner placed in the van initially. But I tell you what, that hot air extraction from the ceiling, it is incredible how well that works. I equate it more to like sitting in the shade under a tree on a hot day than sitting in a hot vehicle. It sucks all of that heated air from the van straight out, and you're just left with a nice, cool, shaded, fresh air scenario when you open a window in the back or whatever and create kind of a cross flow. So that was a good move. And then finally up here, I built this little center console in the middle, complete with antler-based knob, which I was pretty psyched about. But just we use it more for spotting scopes, camera equipment, sort of your bino harness and all that stuff, just to kind of have a quick place to put that so it's not riding around on the dash or on the floorboards. For power, we have two 100-watt Zamp solar panels on the roof. They are the new Obsidian panels from them. But basically what happens is the panel wiring, we drilled another hole next to the vent fan. Wire comes down, goes to the solar controller, which leads to a 12-volt deep cycle battery, which then gets transferred out to, we put a breaker box in there as kind of secondary protection, but it leads out to this inverter, which you can then plug in 120 AC power to wherever you need it. So it has been more than adequate for us and our power needs. We're always charging something or running the fridge, freezer, or lights at night and all of that. And these panels and system have very, very easily kept up with the amount of power draw that we're adding to it. Those are nice. That solar power is fantastic and so much quieter than a generator. It's been nice panels. That's what I'm talking about. So let's go out back, check out the trunk.
This way. A couple new additions to the team. A couple of Rogue Ridge e-bikes, which
are basically electric motorcycles, and they're awesome.
I don't know. This is probably the most proud part, the area that we're most proud of. Think?
Sure.
Maybe not.
Sam likes this part.
We have a deck drawer system, which we're constantly like evolving in how we pack stuff and where we put stuff, and it'll just keep getting better. We're both have a drawer, and so
You did it good.
yeah, try it. It's a bourbon barrel duck call.
Pretty good.
Storage back here for everything, mostly clothing, kind of at the ready stuff for when we're jumping out to hunt. And then obviously on the back doors have molly webbing panels, again with all the pouches, which we're continuing to fill up with all the small stuff just to keep everything organized. Got a little hatchet, got a saw, got all the extra knives and blades and radios and
I think one thing you find if you've ever done any of this is it all too quickly ends up being a mess. I mean, it's happened in every scenario of camp and also vehicle for camping we've ever used. Is you start out with the best of intentions, you leave the house and it's all organized, and after 2 days of hunting it's just an absolute disaster. So after that experience, we've been trying to refine how organized it all is, and I think this is by far our best shot yet.
And the smaller the space, the quicker it becomes disorganized.
Yeah.
So
more thought process you have to have on the onset.
Yeah. It was like with the bus, you could kind of just like jam stuff everywhere, and with the van, and
you actually have to pack.
Yeah. Josh installed both the deck system and the cargo glide, and then I just did the foam cutouts on this Kaizen insert foam. And And so we can store all of we can store 4 guns, bow, quiver.
This is the awesome weapon slide out.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is pretty cool.
One guy's filming or shooting photos, and then, you know, their bow sits in the back, and then you're going out hunting with the guy whose bow is up on the seat. But yeah, so we've got bow and then 2 rifles and 2 shotguns. Savage has graciously kind of dove into this whole project to help support the public lands mission and everything that we're up to. And so we're rocking 2 Savage rifles and 2 of the new Savage Renegade shotguns for this whole year, which we're super excited about. This is our James Bond, Batmobile, double, you know, like Boondock Saints weapons room, like type, you know,
Teenage Dream weapons drawer,
Tremors, Bert, and
right, all
whatever
that
wall,
stuff.
that whole thing. That's
all those little wow moments. We got to have our own little slide out for that.
Yeah.
Exterior of the van has been was wrapped by the wrap agency in Bozeman, and took it up there and got that done from those guys. And then Quigley, we went with front and rear bumpers from Quigley, and we'll show you the front bumper here as we move to the front of the van. But they've been very burly. They sit very tight to the van. I like how they look. They were really easy to install. That process went a lot better than I anticipated. The other thing that's kind of cool about their bumper systems is they give you a little bit of play, so you can shift things left, right, high, low, change the angles. So if you're thinking about installing a custom bumper, you kind of need things like that, just because every single body of each vehicle is a little different, has a little different attitude. So you kind of you need a little space to be able to meld it, so you end up getting a nice even line as you install the bumper, and that really happened with both the front and rear bumpers on this. Fender flares on this one, just to kind of keep some of the mud off the sides, and beef out a little bit, just to kind of push some brush out of the way and all that as well. But the other thing is we went with a little bit wider tire and rim, so the tire came just a little bit outside the body, so it's kind of nice to have these catching some of the flack coming up off the rubber on the KM3s from BF Goodrich. But these are just a universal flare, so when they were shipped to me, they were in longer chunks, and they included some adhesive and some screws with them. I ended up going with just my own like 7/8 tech screws, and just tech screwed them in everywhere. It was just a better bond than the stuff that came with it. But for a universal fender flare, they worked really well and have been holding up really nicely, so happy there. With Baja Voodoo designs on the ladder and roof rack.
Up here on top of the roof rack, Josh mentioned it was made by Baja Voodoo. Super heavy duty roof rack. And when it came, it was just a solid rack all the way. So we actually had to cut a hole in the roof rack to fit the vent fan, because we didn't know exactly where we wanted to put it on the roof in the first place. And then these are the Zamp Obsidian panels. They need to be cleaned because right now they're covered in Colorado wildfire ash. But yeah, they do an awesome job of really, they put out a lot of amps of power. We've been super impressed. And then another favorite part of the build right now is this wooden wind fairing we've got going on here with the seat clamps. But the roof rack does, with the round tubing and just where it sits in comparison to the windshield, we definitely get a little bit of howl off that roof rack if we don't have that wind fairing. So
and then the rocker panels here are from Quigley, or the rocker guards here from Quigley as well. They are absolutely beastie. We installed these at a parking lot at a ski hill at a total archery challenge.
Yep.
So they obviously not too difficult to install, but it was nice having at least 2 people there just to heave these beefy things up into position to get them locked down, because they are really well built. We have given them a little bit of a workout thus far, and they've held out really, really well. Front fender flare. Here's the Antelope bumper. Quigley's bumpers come with a front receiver, so we were able to plug in this awesome pack mule to get some auxiliary stuff just stacked up here too for the trip. So, you know, honestly, it looks pretty great when you got, I mean, not that, like, I guess look good, play good, but like you got the rack up front and the rack up top and a couple e-bikes sitting off the back, and like people know you're heading out to have some fun, you know, and that's kind of been a fun part of this project as well. But yeah, stacked a Yeti up here and a couple of fuel tanks. We figured this way, you know, if we hit something, there'll at least be a really good explosion. We have all white Pathfinder lights that are placed in the front bumper on this particular build, and for just ripping up and down dirt roads at night, or going up and down a logging road and having to be a little bit technical when you're driving, they just really light your path in front of you, and it's been a nice addition to the whole project. But yeah, Sam, I'll talk a little bit about just what the base of the vehicle is at this point.
The base of the build was a Chevy Express 3500 with the extended wheelbase. We found the van it was a used van that we had converted into four-wheel drive, and we found it with 26,000 miles on it. And so super low mileage for a little bit older van. Everything's built on a 3500 chassis. And then took the van out to Pennsylvania, and Quigley 4x4 put the four-wheel drive conversion in, as well as a 3-inch lift, and then they put on the BF Goodrich tires. But the four-wheel drive system is absolutely bomb-proof, and we've had it in some pretty major mud situations so far, and some real technical stuff like down in Arizona in the desert, and it's performed basically flawlessly.
The balanced nature of a van versus a pickup, you have a lot more equal pressure on each tire, and so you end up having a lot grippier experience than you do, for instance, with my full-size pickup.
It's a gas engine, so it's a 6-liter V8. It's a LS motor. I mean, they've been around forever, so there's a lot of things that you can do to that motor.
Oh, it's the cast version of the LS.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
It's the truck version.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the,
Yeah.
That's what.
But yeah, 6-liter V8. We did throw a different muffler on it to open up the airflow a little bit. We just went with a bigger body muffler so we don't have all the noise. Didn't really need that, but we did like the a little bit extra performance. I think at this point, the only thing we might do as far as the build on the van actually goes is to switch out the gear ratio to a 410 gear set, just to have parity and have it drive a little bit better going down the highway.
Handling the 35s, I think it'll be very much nicer to have 410s.
Yeah, the public land van.
Yeah, public land van. So a lot of it now is just, utilizing it and continuing our mission to kind of show what's possible out here, the types of experiences you can have for little charge, based on the actual life you get to live when you're out on these places, and explaining to people why they're important, and helping a little bit of habitat along the way as well. So,
yeah.
That's it.
That's the van. Bye. We are...
Huh? I'm just trying something on. Go ahead.
All right.